everybody, welcome to the first video from recordingtutorials.com, a channel created by Daniel and me, the developers of Native Instruments Session Guitarist sample libraries. Our partners at Native Instruments have just released Electric Vintage, and we've prepared a blind listening test for you. We'll try to emulate parts played by a professional studio guitarist by replacing all of his performances with tracks from Native Instruments Session Guitarist, and the question is, will Electric Vintage be flexible enough to recreate each of the different guitar parts, and how realistic will it sound? We won't tell you which one is which. Let's just call them Mix A and Mix B. They obviously sound different, as these are two different guitars recorded through different recording setups. Here's Mix A. Before we move on, let us know in the comments which one you think is the real guitarist and which one is Electric Vintage. Alright, here's the solution. Mix A was Electric Vintage and the second one was the original. The next part is a typical power chord backing track. Here's Mix A. Mix A was the original part and Mix B was created using Electric Vintage. For the final version of the song, we've added a second guitar part on top of the first one, and we've used dual amping to have more flexibility in the mix. We'll explain all that in detail in our tutorial about creating guitar backing tracks. As the song had acoustic guitar parts as well, we decided to replace them with Strummed Acoustic too. Here's Mix A. This time Strummed Acoustic 2 was Mix A and the recorded acoustic guitar was Mix B. By the way, we're also working on an extensive workshop where we'll teach you everything we've learned in over 20 years of writing, recording, mixing and mastering music, shooting music videos and recording music festivals, building recording studios and developing sample libraries that are used by music producers and artists around the world. Register for free on recordingtutorials.com and you'll be the first to know when the workshop becomes available. We also had a picked acoustic guitar doubling the picked electric guitar part, and we've used Native Instruments Session Guitarist picked acoustic library to emulate that part. Alright, Mix B was the sample library and Mix A was the studio recording. The last one is a melody line, and as melodies have always been super hard to emulate with sample libraries, it might be a little easier to guess which one is which. Alright, this time Mix A contained Electric Vintage and Mix B was the original recording. By the way, we have a little confession to make. We tricked you. After all, we're German and I've been told that's what Germans do when they're trying to be funny. Well, you thought you were comparing a sample library against a studio musician, right? In the very first example, we loaded up our previous sample library, Electric Sunburst, and gave you the two sample libraries to choose between. Here they are again, but this time we'll add the actual recording of the studio guitarist at the end. Obviously, electric vintage wouldn't sound like this if you just load up a pattern and press one key at a time. Using different articulations, vibrato and pitch bend, and combining different patterns is what brings sample libraries to life. That's why in our next videos, we'll show you in detail how we created the guitar parts in this track, and more importantly, how you can get the most out of electric vintage and the other Session Guitarist libraries. I'd say that's a wrap. Thanks for watching and see you next time.